Frannie, welcome to the National Music Center. We are so thrilled you're here. We just like to ask if you can introduce yourself and your affiliation to the community.
You bet. Frannie Klein, Indigenous. I'm from Treaty 2, Kakak-Quakajun, Ebb and Flow First Nation, off the shores of Lake Manitoba. I'm pretty pumped to be here. Just, like 2 weeks ago was Dancing Powwow. We had our 25th annual powwow in Ebb and Flow, and we have a new arbor and new ground, so it was nice to go and be able to be a part of the first one over there again. And yeah, but now I'm pumped. I'm here. I feel like I've been just traveling.
It's interesting when you talk about your home community. You also grew up in Bacon Ridge,
yes,
Manitoba, but you've had a real connection to the land since you were a kid. Can you share about that?
I am a huge lover of all animals, of being outside. Like I'm usually barefoot most days. My grandparents, they tap trees for maple sugar, maple syrup. And so that's I've been immersed in that since I was a little girl, and cattle rancher. So grew up ranching cattle and doing all the fun stuff and pulling calves and all that. But it's just always been one with the land. So it's always been nice. I feel a little bit lost in Calgary right now because of all it kind of seems like a concrete jungle. But it's nice once in a while to get out of the bush.
Well, and that attachment and that closeness to the land lends itself to being involved with country music.
Absolutely, they go hand in hand.
So that is what was your foray into that interest and that passion?
Well, actually, my late grandfather, Frank Desjardins, was a fiddle player. Amazing talent, and when I was 8, he taught me how to play the fiddle. So the fiddle was my first baby. It was my first kick at the music scene. So 8 years old, he got me up on stage, and that was I remember playing the fiddle, and I was turned to like the drummer. I was so shy, which is hard to think now that me being a shy person, but it kind of just brought the spirits out of me. And my mom's got 13 siblings, and so every single one of them play the fiddle, the guitar, they play the spoons, they'll jig. Everybody's just very musically inclined, and I'm super blessed to have grown up in the Desjardins family because there's always something going on. Christmas is so much fun. There's like 20 people on a carpet like this, and everybody's harmonizing, and everybody's playing the fiddle or the guitar. So it's been around forever. And the classics like Loretta Lynn and George Jones and Merle Haggard and all the greats have always been on the radio. And NCI being one of the main stations, I think was year 2000. Yeah, and that's I remember that always being on the radio, and it's always just been there.
Well, and your foray into music too was you mentioned your grandfather, and your mom played a role as well. I remember,
yes.
Weren't you a kid and you were hoping to get a karaoke machine?
Yeah, so I got my mom, they were all singers, and so I want to kind of just put the fiddle down for a second and like teach me how to play guitar, teach me how to sing, and so I would always try and like listen real hard when they were singing, like watch them, and I don't think I could ever do justice to what they do, especially the harmonies and stuff, but I've always just paid attention, and I was like, Mom, I want a karaoke machine for Christmas. She had got me one, and I thought they went to go check cows, my parents, and so we were in the middle of calving season, and they went to check cows, and I heard that big door, our front door, I heard it shut. And I was like, yeah. So I went downstairs and I hooked up to the karaoke machine. And she tricked me. She was still standing there. And she was listening. And she's like, my girl. And then, I was at a fiddle competition. And then I sat down. And I was sitting there. And usually at these Treaty Day events, they'll have a fiddle competition, singing, and a jigging. So the fiddle was over next was singing. So I'm sitting there, and then all of a sudden they're like, Frannie Klein to the stage. And I just look at my mom, and I almost started crying because I was like beet red. And there was a lot of us kids that competed, and I ended up getting first. And I was like, holy crap, let me try this again. Next time, let me do it on my own will. But I was very upset with her for the time being. But like once I found out I won, I was pretty pumped.
And what song did you perform?
I think it was White Liar by Miranda Lambert.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what it was. That or maybe Traveling Soldier by Dixie Chicks was one of the two.
And those aren't easy songs to sing.
They were just always in my house though, right? White Liar was kind of, I brought Miranda Lambert into the family as far as like the newer country goes. But for the most part, it was always just like, you know, if it was new country, it was like 90s country, which was like Dixie Chicks, Faith Hill, that kind of stuff.
So you won this competition, and what did that? How did that serve you? What did that say to you?
Well, I was like, I gotta up my game here. If I can play the fiddle, why don't I pick up the guitar? So my mom taught me how to play the guitar. She taught me 3 chords, and the 3 chords I learned, I think, were G, D, A, right?
The good ones.
The best. Felt like 3-chord chord. It was awesome. And it was Coat of Many Colors. And then, so, you know, if my mom's ever at my show, I bring her up, and her and I, to this day, like up until 2 weeks ago, I had a show in Ericsdale, Manitoba, and I played, and we were a little bit early. There was some dead time, and everybody was kind of just sitting. So, like, being an entertainer, you want to make sure there's none of that in the room, right? So I don't know any jokes that I can tell, and I'm like, the only thing I know how to do up here is sing. So I was like, Mom, let's go. She's like, are you serious? I'm like, yeah, like, let's just go sing a couple of tunes. And so we did those acoustic, and it's so cool to be, I'm 30 now. So it was nice. I think when she taught me, I might've been 14, 15, and still to this day, we're doing the same stuff. And like, it was nostalgic, and it felt really good. So she's a huge part in getting my butt in line and practicing and stuff too. So very thankful.
I've had the pleasure of seeing you perform a few times, and you know, there is country. It's easy to say country music, but there's so many subgenres in what country is today. Yeah. Where do you place yourself in you know, in all those different definitions of what country music is?
I'm not sure. I ask myself this question every day. If I'm being honest, the world is changing. You know, every day there's new artists, there's new versions of songs that we haven't heard. I don't know really where I stand, other than to know that it's who I looked up to as far as songwriters go. So those people would have been Loretta Lynn, or like Townes Van Zandt, or, you know, even Fred Eaglesmith. Like, some of his stuff is awesome. The Dolly Partons. So Janis Joplin's. Mm-hmm. All of those things just kind of were where I guess my voice kind of leaned to that style of stuff. Now, as far as, you know, asking me, well, what's your genre? I love doing classic country. Right?
When I've seen you perform, there's a honky-tonk edge to what you do.
And that's kind of what I've gone for. But I also, you know, I'm not shy to do other songs. I think I used to I need to stay in this realm and stuff, but I've been fooling around a little bit with different genres and just different songs and different styles of doing it. Somehow it still always comes back to like that twang and that honky-tonk sound, and I'm not mad about it. So, you know, I did release Before I've Flown Away a couple Septembers ago, and it's more of like a folky, roots, alternative country song. So, you know, I'm on that spectrum, that line of folk and country.
And to deliver that, you do it in a genuine style, because I've seen some artists who do it and they're aspiring to have that kind of sound where when you're doing it, you're like, this stands up anywhere.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah. I think growing up with the lifestyle I did, it's easy to relate to the actual country songs, in my opinion, and like to go and dive into and feel the lyrics that some of these artists are writing is you have to, you know, you have to live through some of that in order to understand how it's being sung, in my opinion. And I feel like that's why the oldest songs, I probably sing them well. I feel like I'm a little bit of an old soul, and so it kind of resonates through that music as well.
So you've been writing songs, you've recorded some music as well, and you're at a point in your career where you're at the OHSOTO'KINO, the incubator that's taking place here. How does that fit into where you're at right now?
Well, I remember applying, you know, to maybe get a spot to come here. And once I had found out that I had been accepted and was coming, I was so pumped for many reasons. One of them being, I feel like I've kind of stuck in Manitoba as far as, you know, playing goes and stuff. So it is really nice to get to know other fellow Indigenous artists, one, two, to get to know other cities, but just like what this program has to offer is insane. Like just, we have Desiree Dorian yesterday, just to be able to hear about, what she goes through and stuff. And it's nice hearing a woman's perspective. So I am very appreciative that you guys had her here, or that she's here. And just we talked about festivals, the things that people don't really talk about, the tough things. That's what this program is helping me with personally. So I've been, I've learned about things about festivals that I was like, oh, and it's nice. It's nice to come somewhere to learn, to experience things that I haven't, to be able to sit around all these beautiful instruments in these amazing rooms. It's great. I love it. And I think that it's given me a kick in the butt with releasing more stuff. So I wasn't expecting that, but I'm really pumped about it.
And, for somebody that's new to Frannie Klein, can you share about what you've accomplished in terms of your recordings? Because you've gotten, you've released some singles which have gotten great attention.
Yeah, so I kind of just ripped a couple pieces out of my journal and released some very vulnerable stuff. I was really nervous, but I'm happy that I did. And I don't know, I think I'm at the point where in my songwriting I'm proud of what I'm putting out, and that's, I've been doing this for 12 years, and now I'm finally getting into it, in the business aspect of it, in the touring aspects of it. But I just think that that was something I didn't think about before. And we talked about, in the last couple of days, we've talked about getting a plan together musically for you, for every one of us. And I think that now I'm kind of putting the puzzle pieces together. And I really hope to release some upbeat stuff to not make you guys cry. I think it's important to tell the truth in songs that you're writing. And I also think it's important for people to realize, in order to write decent stuff, you have to go through some crap stuff. And that was something that was hard to face. And now that I have been going through, life, as we all do, it's got its ups and downs. And the thing with that is, like, I'm really thankful for music to be able to have that vice, to be able to write it down. And I think for the first time ever, I'm going to be putting stuff out that is like really true, really honest stuff.
One of your songs dealt with mental health issues. Can you share about the title of the song and how that came about?
For sure. So the title of the song, Before I've Flown Away, that was one of the pieces of my diary, and it wasn't supposed to be a song. I had dealt with some mental health issues for quite some time, and I was pretty oblivious to the fact, I think it's safe to say. Like, I was like, nope, nothing wrong with me, I'm fine. And an elder had talked to me back home, and he was Ikwe. He said, where do you go when you hit your head, or did you break an ankle? Where do you go? I said, to the hospital. He said, your head's not doing good. Why don't you go? Like, why don't you go talk to somebody? Why don't you? And I was just like, had this in my head, I had pictured that just being such a bad thing for somebody to do. And the embarrassment and the secondhand embarrassment, I didn't want to, like, give my family, because somehow that was in my head. But let me tell you, I went and did all the things. I started taking care of my health first, and that was important. My mental health started to help, build up back who Frannie was. And so the song just talks about the struggles of that journey that I dealt with. And music was my healer at the end of the day. Music literally saved my life. That song, I think, was the reason, if I'm being honest, I'm still alive today. So I'm very thankful for that song. And it's crazy when you hear other people's mental health journey once they hear the song and they come and tell you, and that alone is just like, I could bawl. It's really cool. Like, I've never experienced anything that cool in my life, being able to adapt with other people to their stories and to merge into conversation with that. And so it's nice. And that was the vulnerable song that I put out, and I think it gave me a lot of courage to be able to put out more music now.
And I think that's what people are looking forward to is more music from you, obviously. And I always admire how you've you've immersed yourself in a circle of musicians. Like what can you share about that? Because you are part of a community.
Yeah, and I didn't realize that honestly until like in the last couple of years. I really kind of just believe that all musicians need to stick together. I think there's something to be said about banding together as an alliance against, sometimes the world. I think that when two artists can sit down, especially songwriters, and sit down and start writing, and then even just talking, like I was telling you earlier how, I was sitting down with a friend and sometimes we want to record, but we just start exchanging stories. And I think there's something to be said about a musician and the type of life that they live and stuff. You have to have this backbone that nobody tells you about when you sign up to be a musician and an artist and tour and do all the fun stuff. Nobody tells you about that. So it is really nice to be around other people who have been through that and know the struggles of being on the road, know the struggles of the mental health that you deal with on the road. And so I've just kind of, snuck my way into venues where I love what I'm hearing. And we come from a province in Manitoba that is fully immersed. Like the city of Winnipeg is insane for the amount of live music it has. And I've always just gone out. I remember when I first moved to Winnipeg, I went out 6 days a week, and it wasn't like to go drink or not. It was literally to go watch live music. And so I just kept doing that. And I would go to the open mics. I would go in the first two I wouldn't sing at. I kind of just sit in the corner and watch everybody else and kind of just people watch. And, that's how I found my love for all the other people in the community. And then I started driving and flying out to Nashville. And the amazing people I met there, like Michelle Wright and like the Jimmy Rankin and like Patricia Conroy, all these Canadian artists that are living there. And it was just, everybody's so nice, and like everybody's got a handout for you, and they're welcoming you, and you want to write together, let's write together. Here's my phone number. Do you need somewhere to stay? Like every musician I've come across is just really kind of, given a helping hand. And that's something that is just, it'll make me never leave. Like I'll always be, and it feels like a big family.
And when you mentioned those country artists, you've also opened up for some incredible country talents. Can you share about that?
Yeah, we actually did a show. There was a bunch of us, local artists in Manitoba, and Marty Stewart came to Pegwith, and I was like, oh my God, the biggest, because I'm a classic country fan. And so we got to open up for Marty Stewart, and it was probably one of the coolest experiences ever. And to happen somewhere so close to home too was really nice. I remember of Charlie Major a couple times, and Brett Kissel a few times, and it's cool. Sometimes I forget about those things, and it
Wilkinson's, I think,
the
as well.
Wilkinsons, yeah. At Centerfield Music Festival here, and it's just really cool. Like it's something to be able to be 13, 14 years old, getting ready for school in the morning, to catch your 3 buses to get you to school. And you put CMT on in the morning and you're watching these folks, and then like years later you're standing beside them, they're doing sound check in front of you, and you're like, what the hell? Like, this is so cool. And so it's great. I remember hugging Marty Stewart, and he had his mullet still, obviously. But it's gray now and beautiful.
Famous mullet.
Well, yeah, but the thing is I hugged the guy. Like we said, like, thanks for having us. And his hair poked my eyeball for like 2 days after that. It felt like I had like been stabbed in the eyeball. I'm like, man, how much hairspray do you use? Like, this is amazing. Like, so yeah, I'll always remember that one especially. Yeah.
And those experiences, because you're a caliber of talent where you can perform with them. So
yeah.
So what does that mean to you? Is like you did say, it's like you grew up seeing these artists, but does it say, okay, I'm here, and I got to keep going? What does it say to you?
Yeah. So things like coming to this program, things like having conversations with people who understand music like you do, it is, and it just inspires me more. Being able to be around the people that we just talked about opening up for, it really makes me feel like I need to just keep going, I am worried about being a 30-year-old woman in the industry. As we know, in any industry, in any part of the music industry, you hit that 30 mark as a woman, and it's just a little different. You can't. I never really did the pop or the top 40 stuff. I think I had tried for a month or so, didn't work out. It's just not my style, and neither is to, do the big bars that are like the clubs and stuff. It's just not my. So I really worry about, I don't know. I worry sometimes about my audience and if I'm going to keep an audience. That is the one thing I think I struggle with the most, with having that, I think like that, and then I think, oh my goodness, but I did open up for these people. Like somebody still comes. So there's a little bit of argument I have with myself from time to time where I'm like, man, am I too old for this? Or, do I have to, change my genre? My genre is already considered pretty rootsy, pretty old school, pretty storytelling. That's the one thing I struggle with. And then I try to tell myself, I'm doing this for me, So it's hard to not get caught up in that. Who are we doing this for right now? Am I doing this to?
Well, and your audience, I think, when you're on stage performing, people gravitate towards you. You have a big personality on stage. You have an amazing voice,
Appreciate
and
it.
then you're singing songs from your heart.
Yeah.
So I think there's always going to be an audience that wants to have that experience, and when they're watching and listening to music. You were signed to a label for a little bit there too. I remember hearing news about that, as an overseas label that took you in, and that's part of bringing you here today. That's part of your journey. What did you learn from that experience?
Oh my goodness. I had no idea that country was so huge in Australia and New Zealand. Like, I felt like I'm out to lunch. But it was really cool. It was, these people had reached out a couple times. If I'm being honest, the first time they reached out, I was just like, oh my God, this is a spam. I literally hung up on them. I'm not even kidding you. I was like, who the hell is this calling me, And it was the head guy from the label, and he was like, hey, like, sorry, it's not a scam. Like, I had just called you, and I was like, oh my God. Oh. And, I had sat on that for about 3 months and got a couple people to look at it, like, is this a fair deal? And they really helped with, like, showing me things about marketing that I had no idea to, they were really good at kicking me in the butt and like, hey, give us another, let's release this next thing. And so I had signed up with them for a year. The option there is still to re-sign. I'm just not sure. I mean, it's so far, and then COVID had happened, and it's just all of these factors. But that was probably one of the coolest things that's happened in the last couple of years, is being able to be signed to Hartsville Records. So it was awesome.
So you have these experiences showing, doing shows and performing and being signed to this label for a year. But you're shaping your career right now, and I guess experiences like this will certainly help with that. But I guess you have to ask that difficult question, and is, where do I want this to go?
Absolutely. We had talked about that yesterday. Like, what's your game plan? And honestly, like, I love being on stage. I love being sassy and just like true Fran on stage. I love that. I think I like being around people, like making people laugh. I think I wouldn't be mad though if I ended up being like just like a backwoods songwriter that just kind of hangs out in the bush and comes and does a few shows. Like, I love being around people. I love being on stage, but I think I love writing songs more than anything. I think that is my, I'm getting better at guitar, thankfully, because I've had all the time in the world to practice. But that also is helping me become a better songwriter, and it's helped a lot. And I think that's kind of where I'm starting. I'm gonna just base it around that. So I'm gonna try and base my career around the songs that I'm confident in, and after being here and learning from some of the mentors here, I think I am going to go ahead and put a single out as opposed to an album out. So I think from coming up, you can expect a single as opposed to an album or an EP.
Nice.
Yeah.
And there's a huge difference between writing songs, being in the studio, being on stage. Like, they're different worlds.
All so different.
And is that being in the studio world? How is that for you?
I love it. Like, I I could probably just sleep there and be a happy lady. I think that there's something to be said about the dead silence before that track starts. There's something to be said about recording live on the floor, like on a carpet like we're on right now. There's something, like my late grandmother Klein used to tell me, goosebumps don't lie. And let me tell you, every time I'm in that damn studio, I got goosebumps galore, and it is a high in itself. It is like, I don't think any drug or any type of anything in the world can compare to hearing how raw something is and how you built that. And there's something that is very nostalgic about hearing it on the radio afterwards. And it's just very cool. It's a very cool experience. I didn't get to experience it until obviously releasing that single. And so I think I made like a Snapchat video or something, and I was like, oh my God, because I was driving in Winnipeg and the song came on NTI and I was freaking out. And it was just, there's something about having that moment and knowing that you built this from nothing, from pen to paper, into now you're listening to it on these airwaves. And so that's something that'll never go away. And that's part of the reason I love the studio so much, I think.
And you mentioned your family giving you that support. You know, what would it be like not to have that support, do you think?
I wouldn't do it. There's no way. Like I am so lucky, and I can't say that enough. Like I feel very blessed, very, very blessed to have such a huge, not only are they very supportive, like with telling me like, you know, to release this, or when you plan to, they will always ask questions, they're supportive, but they come to my shows and sometimes we can't even get anybody else in the damn door because there's so many of them. You know, like they'll show up in vehicles, and it is the coolest thing ever. And I'm like looking to see if there's somebody in the crowd that I don't know, you know, because there's a lot of us. Like I have 41 first cousins, Dave, so there's a lot of us.
Well, and you know that's something to be appreciative of, but
Very
it also
much so.
brings about some pressure too. Because doesn't it? Because it's like we want Frannie to do well. That, you know, they're cheerleading you.
They're just the type of family that there is no pressure though. Like even if there is, like it makes me feel like they're like my security blanket. It's almost like when there's not enough of them there, then that's when I get the pressure. That's when I feel it. And I don't know if that's just because they're often there, and when they're not, it feels very naked without them. But for the most part, I'm just very blessed that there's so many of them that come. And not only them, but just, you know, fans throughout the years and stuff. Like the people that come to support and sit there and listen and don't, you know, they're not talking over the band, there's no screaming, there's no yelling, nobody playing the jukebox, and like they come to listen. And being an artist, especially a songwriter, it is the coolest feeling when somebody actually appreciates the words that are coming from your mouth, ones that you came up with, the melody that you came up with. And so just very happy that I got all of them.
You mentioned melody you came up with. What is your approach to writing country music?
Oh God, I don't know that I have one. Honestly, I have to be in a mood. Somebody has to piss me off, or somebody has to, you know, make me happy, or just make something sad has to happen. Like you got to get through the stuff, right? Fortunately, I can never just sit there and come up with something. I have to have a guitar with me. Like I'm not just like driving and this melody comes to mind. Lyrics, on the other hand, I'll be driving and I'll have to pull over because I'm like, oh shit, like I just, you know, and then all of a sudden I'm on the side of the road for an hour and I'm like, okay, I gotta go. But then I'll have written out what I think is a whole song, and then I'll dissect it with a guitar when I get home. But it's always just, I'm noticing I am in those minor chords. So I don't know if I'm just trying to pull a Richard Inman here and just be sad all the time, or what. But they come and they go, but I have to have the guitar in my hand.
One musician I was talking to, he was saying like you have a special antenna where these songs come from. Is that, how do you feel about that? Because they just, like you say, you're driving and all of a sudden it comes to you like that.
I think it's a lot what's on your mind. I think a lot of it has to do with, like for me, this might sound silly, but I have a 24-hour rule. So how it works for me is if 24 hours go by and I'm still upset about something or someone or an incident, or I don't act on it, I wait 24 hours because I give myself the 24-hour rule. Sometimes I do that with songs, right? Like sometimes I'm like, does this sound like crap, or am I like, or is this actually good? And sometimes you got like, I catch myself getting like my head swelling out because I'm like, no, I thought that was good yesterday. That is not good. But it's almost like letting your body feel, you know when the doctors say, you know your body better than anybody else. If you're tired, sleep. If you're thirsty, drink all the water you can. It's almost like that. It's like, no, go sit down and write this. This is on your mind right now. This is not leaving. There's a reason why you're still thinking this way. And it's therapeutic for me. You know, it's part of my healing journey is writing all that out. And sometimes if I write it out, I'm not upset anymore. You know, I'm not, all it takes is me putting pen to paper and I'm good. And so I'm just I feel bad for the people who can't do that, who don't understand journaling and who don't, you know, register that way. If it wasn't for pen to paper, I don't know. I'd probably be an angry person, I think.
I have to ask you about your name as well. Frannie Klein.
Yep.
Like, you couldn't have a more country name. What are your thoughts on just your name?
You know what? I get that a lot, like especially going down to the States. They're always like, Frannie Klein, and I'm just like, God. They're like, is that your stage name? I'm like, it's my name. Like, I swear to God, it's my name. But a lot of the times people are like, did you say Granny? And I'm like, no, I did not. But I love it. I don't know. How many Frannies do you know that aren't like, 80 years old? If I know a Frannie, she's probably 80 or 90 years old. So I don't know. I feel like it fits. I feel like it's quirky enough and it's plain enough all in one. Yeah.
Where did the name come from, Frannie?
So my late grandfather, Frank Desjardins, who passed away, fiddle player. My brother's name is Frankie. I have a brother. His name is Frankie and Frannie. So there's two. My mom has two kids, and we were both named after my grandfather. And so I think that's part of the reason also why I'm like really kind of, I love the name a lot more than I think I should, because it brings me kind of back when people are like, can I call you Frankie? I'm like, yeah, you can actually. And it's nice. It reminds me of him, so it's nice.
What do you think your grandfather would think of what you're doing right now?
Oh, that's a tough one. Well, it's not a tough one. It's just tough to think about. But I wrote a song about him the day after he passed away, and I sang it for my grandmother, and she bawled her eyes out. And it was like, I think that was part of the healing. Like, if I didn't have music, I don't know that I would, I don't know. The song is called Music in Me, and it literally talks about, if it wasn't for Grandpa Frank, I don't think I'd have any music in me. And so I think writing that and stuff, I think that really helped me heal from him being gone. And it helped me be like, hey, Grandpa, I did this for you. I think I always tried to make him proud. And so I hope right now that I'm doing that. I'm sure he'd be happy. He'd always just randomly call me and be like, where are you today, Ikwe? Like, where are you today? Because he knows I would be all over the damn province or the country for that matter. But he'd always just check in on me, always just call to check in. So I'm sure he'd be happy right now. I'm hoping.
Oh, I'm sure he'd be happy.
Yeah.
Got to ask you about one of your favorite show experiences. When you look back from where the last few years, is there a show that stands out where you go, okay, this is all in check. This is where I should be.
Yeah, the Loretta Lynn tribute show I did not long ago. Loretta Lynn passed away about 6 months ago. 7 months, maybe more than that. And John Scholes, owner of Times Change, I messaged him and was like, man, like, I'm going to be so aggressive about this, but I need to do a Loretta Lynn tribute show. Like, let me do one. I was like, she passed away today. And he was like, what? Like, she just passed away. And I'm like, no, this needs to happen. Like, that is that is my biggest idol. I like, as far as her writing style goes, I really feel like I have always merged towards her sassiness and her, you know, her spite. And so I just thought it was so suiting, and like I know all of her songs. I mean, I don't perform them all, but I damn well know them all. And so he was like, yep, okay. And then messaged me with the date, and we figured that show out. And to be able to, I think learning a whole new show for just one person, I've never done that. I've never done a tribute show for somebody. So to be able to do that for somebody who is literally your idol, who you believe every lyric that you're singing and stuff, I think that show was probably my favorite, most stressful, but most satisfying show. I was so nervous, like I could have cried before going on stage. In fact, I think I threw up before going on stage. The little times changed. I just wanted to do her justice, you know? And being on that stage and even watching the videos back and stuff, I was like, you know, she's gonna be proud. I think she would be proud. I think she'd be giving me a thumbs up right now. And so that was probably the coolest experience on stage that I had, because I felt like, yeah, like I believe everything I'm singing. I love the way this band sounds. It was so great. Like my band learned every part of every song the way that she does it, and her band did it, and it was just like, I felt like Loretta on stage, you know, and it was so badass. It was so cool, and so that was probably my coolest experience.
Well, you're carrying that flag forward, you know,
yeah,
and that's amazing. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, no, it was awesome.
So yeah, you're connected to the music community, connected to these artists, connected to the land, connected to family. There's a lot of depth to your career and within the music that you're making, and you know, you're here at OHSOTO'KINO, and so, you know, is there a, do you foresee you're formulating it, but the goal, you know, where I get the feeling where you're figuring this out, where this is going to go,
right?
But it is reaching a place of happiness.
I'm happy. That's the thing. Like I'm pretty happy. Like right now, I think I'd be happier if I just put out more music, but I'm nervous. I think being here at this program though has just given me that kick. And now I'm like, okay, there was a lot of unanswered questions I had being an artist who hasn't, you know, been through a lot of the mentorship, like the mentors that we had seen. The amount of knowledge that they've given me in just a couple days has been insane. So now I feel like I have the answers to the questions that I was unsure about. And now I think I kind of know a little bit more of what I want. I know that at the end of the day, I'm happy writing songs, but I'm also need to release more. And so that's the for sure thing that this place has taught me so far, is that when I get out of here, I'm gonna just go and see what tracks I have recorded, because I know they're all recorded. We've recorded them all, and it's just picking the one and releasing it and doing it and just saying the hell with it.
Well, thank you for sharing with us, Chimigwech. It's great to hear your stories,
Thank you.
and you know, a lot of people are wishing you well, Frannie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Chimigwech.